He's Charles Barkley, NBA on TNT, joining us. We got Senator McCain coming in the man cave here, Chuck, in an hour.
What?
Well, I just letting you know. I mean, Arizona senator, and you're an Arizona guy. And
I'm a Democrat. No, sir. I vote Democratic.
Do you know Senator McCain?
We've never met. I respect and admire what he's accomplished in his Army career. You have to definitely admire what he's accomplished. But I'm a Democrat, and the Republicans in Arizona they're not the nicest people. They discriminate against Hispanics. They discriminate against gays. So I'm not a big Republican fan out in Arizona.
Is it a tough state to live in?
Yeah, we got some embarrassing politicians out there. Yeah, it's definitely a tough state to live in. You go back to the MLK Day, which was embarrassing. They treat the Hispanics horribly out there. And I think we got the gay thing that's been going on the last year. So, yeah, it's embarrassing at times, but that's not a reflection of all the people, just some of the people.
This whole situation with the Clippers and why it, I think, resonated with a lot of people. I don't think it's over by any stretch of the imagination here, but do you think that the NBA players in general are satisfied with everything that they've heard so far? Is there anything that could come up now that might derail this, in your opinion?
No, I think we as players are happy with the outcome, and I think Adam did a magnificent job. And I think the players, he actually went further than we thought he was going to go, and we're really thrilled and excited about it. But it's over from a player standpoint.
Yeah, I'm just not sure what happens with that team and that.
Well, listen, what's going to happen with that team if Donald Sterling don't sell it? No black player is going to play there. I like the way everybody say, well, it's not going to be that simple. Yeah, it's going to be that simple. When the season starts next year, if he owns the team, Adam Silver has to make all the players free agents, in my opinion, because no black player is going to play there. I can promise you that. He's going to make all the players free agents, and he's going to fill a developmental team. He's probably going to play those guys $120, $30 million a year, and he's going to see the value of his team go down every year. No player, I can promise you, no black player, and I wouldn't be surprised if any NBA player. We're never going to play as long as he owns that team when the season starts next year. I think y'all are underestimating the players. If Donald Sterling owns the Clippers when the season starts next year, no black player is going to play there. I can promise you that. And I'm pretty sure all the other black players are going to boycott the NBA. So we're not concerned at all. He's going to have to sell that team, plain and simple.
Okay, why is it that everybody knows now that he's a bad guy, but nobody seemed to know he was a bad guy prior to last week? And I'm talking about players who went there, Doc Rivers who went there. If it was a common knowledge that Donald Sterling's a bad guy, why were these players going to play for him, or why did Doc take that money and leave Boston and go there to coach for him?
Well, it might be common knowledge that he was a bad guy. I don't think anybody knew he was a racist. Everybody brings up those Justice Department lawsuits. Those were settled. And everybody knows just because you settle a lawsuit, that doesn't make you a bad guy. I've settled lawsuits that I knew I had no chance. I was not guilty at all. But instead of wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars, I settled those lawsuits. So I think people are being disingenuous, trying to blame Doc and the players for something they did not do. It's so funny. Like, I love dealing with all this crap with the media because the media, I look at most of the media. They just love. I actually think they were disappointed that Adam Silver banned him for life because it didn't give them anything to talk about for a few days. I do. They love, especially when it's on race, because the race is a perfect win for the media because they get every black idiot and every white idiot to speak. But listen, we're not concerned. Donald Sterling, no players or NBA games going to be played next season if he still owns the team.
What if his wife owns it? What if he got?
The Sterling family. The Sterling family can't own the team. Dan, he's going to have to sell the team, or the players are not going to play. Like I say, I know these players pretty well. You can't ask Doc Rivers and Chris Paul and Blake to go to work for a family they know don't like black people. And his wife. I've seen the tape where she goes around as quote unquote a health inspector looking at minorities' houses. So I don't listen. The media can let that go. Talking about I love all these lawyers on television. Listen, the NBA is not going to let the league shut down Donald Sterling and his family will not own the Clippers next year, or there will not be a single NBA game played. I can promise you that.
Would you do the studio at TNT?
Well, I don't think without games, I don't think there would be a studio. I mean, listen, the players in this league are not going to play games next year if Donald Sterling owns the Clippers. We were happy to get it over with so we can get on with the playoffs, which has been amazing. But I can promise you, no basketball is going to be played next year if Donald Sterling still owns the Clippers. And like I say, if he wants to play hardball, what Adam should do is make all his players free agents, make him fill a D-League team, and you have to pay – I think it's over $100 million to your players. Can you imagine? And no sponsors. If he's paying his players $100 to $150 million a year, has no sponsors, can you imagine how the value of that team going to drop like a rock?
He's Charles.
I mean, we got options.
He's Charles Barkley, NBA on TNT analyst. The rule on coming off the bench during a fight or an altercation last night, Paul George, I guess the commissioner's got to decide that sometime today. Your thoughts on what you saw with Paul George, and was that a suspendable offense if you look at the rule book, the letter of the law?
I think it's going to be close. It's interesting. I've been suspended by the rule. I was in the game when the rule started. Greg Anthony came off the New York bench and slugged Kevin Johnson. I forget who Kevin was fighting with, but we started the rule in Phoenix against the Knicks back in the mid-'90s. And that rule, to me, is a silly rule. A guy who takes a step on the court who's not trying to escalate the violence should not be suspended. That undermines the integrity of the rule. The rule was designed if a guy comes off the bench and escalates the fight. I think it's going to be a tough call for the commissioner. It's a silly rule, to be honest with you. Like I say, that's not what the rule was intended for. The rule was intended if you come off the bench to escalate a fight. I think it's going to be real close on the Pacers. It's going to be real close.
I can't suspend him.
Well, listen, they've done it. This is like the fifth time in the last 3 or 4 years this has come up, and they've suspended the guy pretty much every time. I've actually talked to the NBA about changing the rule. It's a bad rule, and it's unfortunate. But I think it's going to be very close. I do. I think it's going to be very close whether he gets suspended or not. But instead of worrying about whether we should suspend Paul George, we should look at the rule, what the letter of intent of the rule is.
A couple other things here. With the whole Kevin Durant, Mr. Unreliable, that whole pressure of Kevin Durant to win a championship, is the media now applying that to Kevin Durant? And is it fair to do it now?
Well, that's the way it is when you're a star. They love you, then they put the pressure on. That's something I have to live with, not winning a championship. The press loves you. They do. That's just the way it is, but then they turn against you. You see the same thing going on down in Dallas with Tony Romo. I mean, anytime you're a star, you're going to get the blame. The thing I was disappointed in Oklahoma was, listen, you expect these nitwits on television to take shots at stars. That's what they do. But your hometown newspaper should always be in your corner. And as I said on the show last night, LeBron got sick of dealing with the stuff, so he left, and you're never going to hear the Cavs again. If Durant leaves Oklahoma, you're never going to hear them again. And that was the thing that was the most disappointing. He's going to be a free agent in 2 years, and if he leaves there, we won't be going to Oklahoma City to do games like we never go back to Cleveland. Your hometown newspaper should always be supportive. Like I say, all these idiots on these talk shows, they're going to take shots at you because that draws up people calling in, arguing with them and everything. But the paper you work for, especially if it's a small market, should be supportive of the team as much, especially the team that's winning. Oklahoma City, they've done a fantastic job. They've been in the finals once in the last couple of years. Probably would have been in the finals last year if Russell Westbrook doesn't get hurt. And got a good shot of going to the finals again this year. But the headline was not a good headline. It wasn't a good headline at all.
The Lakers' next head coach, with Mike D'Antoni, quote-unquote, resigning, I don't think you can have a quick fix here, but can you get a big name in there to coach this team right now?
I don't think you're going to get a big name. I think what they're going to do is probably bring in somebody that can get on the cheap, because the team's not going to be any good at least for 2 or 3 years. and a big name coach. Why would you pay him X of millions of dollars to come in there and coach a mediocre team? So I personally, this is just I always say my personal opinion. I think they're gonna get somebody they can get relatively cheap, ride this whole Kobe Bryant thing out for the next couple of years, and then they'll be in a much better situation in probably a minimum of 2 years, but more like 3 or 4 years before they're going to be competitive, depending on who they can get to go there.
Is Steve Kerr going to take this job, the Knicks job, by next week?
It's interesting. I like Steve a lot. I don't know if it's a good job. I think it all depends on regardless of what Carmelo does, I don't think it's a good job. I think with Phil Jackson running things, they obviously have a lot more patience. But I just don't think it's a good job, to be honest with you.
But you get to work with Phil Jackson.
Yeah, but he's not playing, is he? He's not coaching. I mean, it's about players, man. You got to get players.
But you have to have a good front office there. It's like Magic Johnson celebrating D'Antoni resigning. Well, the guy who hired D'Antoni is still in office there. So these aren't happy days. At least you got.
No, I don't. Well, I was the first person who called out Magic, and it wasn't to call him out, not the right word. I didn't think what he did. He's better than that. He's Magic Johnson. He's better than that. I said that on the show because we showed the tweet.
Yeah.
Because he resigned during the game, and I thought Magic Johnson's better than that. He's unbelievable, but he's better than that. But the Lakers got a long way to go, man, before they're competitive again.
Always good to visit with you. You got a horse in the Derby you going to bet on?
I always just bet a couple dollars on the long shot. I don't know anything about horse racing, but I always put a nice chunk of change on the long shot just in case.
Eddie Olczyk of NBC said he won $500,000 on a pick six a few years ago, horse racing.
Well, listen, horse racing is obviously a gamble. But like I say, I only watch horse racing a couple times a year. I watch all 3 Triple Crown races, and I watch the Breeders' Cup. That's the only couple days a year I watch any horse racing. But like I say, I've been probably 5 to 10 times over at Garden State in New Jersey, up in the Philadelphia area. And like I say, every race I just put a few dollars on the long shots just in case. And I think probably out of 50 days of betting, I probably only hit the long shot twice. But I don't know enough about horse racing to be honest with you.
Good to visit with you. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Charles.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. Charles Barkley, NBA on TNT.